Who Fans Podcast, episode 3. It's K Rose, my boy Matt. Bro, like I always say, let's get into it. Let's get into it. The Western Conference and the Eastern Conference NBA All-Star reserves were released a few days ago, if not last week. Bro, talk to me. Who got snubbed from this year's 2024 NBA All-Star game?
Brother, listen, I didn't think I was going to be having this conversation with you, but my man Trey Young of the ATL Hawks
Okay.
got snubbed, bro. Like, just point blank, period. Um, he's been hooping this year, regardless of record. I mean, there's been guys in the past who might have not been deserving of an all-star nod, but nobody with similar numbers to him, bro. I mean, 27 and 10 and a half, 11 assists has to be an all-star. I don't care what the discussion is, what the conversation or argument is, but he deserves to be in that game. Um, and I'm scratching my head at these reserves, bro. A couple of them at least.
So Trey Young, and I think from what I saw on social media when these reserves came out, he was probably the most popular choice of someone who got snubbed, and everyone has the outrage, all the hoop fans, and all this good stuff, right? So I hear you, bro. Like you said, averaging 27.3 points a game at this current juncture, 10.9 assists. Those are elite numbers. Like those are elite numbers coming from a 6'1" smaller point guard. Like that's tough. I can't lie on that. And so you're saying that because of those counting stats, he has to automatically be an all-star. Is that what you're saying?
For sure.
Does Now he's shooting 38% from three. So he's knocking down the long ball. I gotta say that. He's knocking down the tray. 38% is very respectable and actually above average. Do you care at all that his field goal percentage is only about 43% on the year? And the fact that the Hawks at this point are, let me check their record, 22 and 27. They're 5 games below 500. What do you think of that?
I think it's not something to really focus on.
See, for me, I'm gonna be honest, bro. As a hoop fan, I'm big on efficiency,
Uh-huh.
and it's a lot of Trey Young has a cult like following, in my opinion, from hoop fans. In the sense of a lot of his hoop fans and his cult like following believe he's a generational talent offensively, and in some ways he is. I think he's one of the best playmakers in the game, one of the best passers in the game, as evidenced by that 10.9 assists per game stat. So he's one of the best passers, one of the best playmakers. I've always been a big person on efficiency, and I do feel that Trey Young may be overrated in some way. Now he's having a great season. Let's be clear, and he's having a great shooting season from 3-point line.
Mhm.
But before this, he isn't really the shooter that people make him out to be, bro. Like a
Mhm.
lot of people try to compare him to Steph Curry, and he's having a good shooting season this season, I must admit. But he's not really like Steph Curry. He's not. He's
Right.
not.
I call him a less efficient Steph Curry. I'm looking at his stats, and he's hovering right around career wise about 43, 44% from the field. Um, so I don't want to say it's a typical season for him, but it's low key a typical season for him. I think we're just, and I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't think anyone's ever in an All Star conversation said, "Well, his field goal percentage isn't the greatest, so we're gonna not make him an All Star." Like
I
the,
get it.
it's the numbers for me, dog. You know what I mean? It's the numbers, and he's going crazy.
Okay, so if he's been snubbed, we got
Mhm.
to ask the question. We have to ask the question. If he's been snubbed, and
Mhm.
I'm looking at the starting lineup for the Eastern Conference, and the starting guards are Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton, right?
Yeah.
And then I look at the reserves, and we have the guards Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brown, Tyrese Maxey. Who is he taking out then? Because we only get 12 spots on this All Star team. And obviously, half of that should go to guards. Who, if he's been snubbed, who do you replace with Trey Young out of those guards I just named?
A lot of people, bro, are gonna, you know, probably not agree with me on this one.
I think I know where you're going with this.
I gotta say Dame. I gotta say Dame.
You're taking Dame out the lineup. You're taking Dame.
Mr. Dame Dollar. Um, really like him, enjoyed him, his whole career. But I just think this year, um, comparing field goal percentages, he's not shooting the ball great. He's he's been called out about this stuff, and there's some off court stuff he's obviously dealing with. We don't got to speak on, but I mean, he's having a good season number wise. Don't get me wrong, but he is he's averaging a little bit less than he has in the past couple years. But I would take him off and add Trey. I just think that and it's really baffled me that he's starting, that he's been named starter.
I mean, it's Dame Lillard. It's Dame time. It's
Time,
Dame
bro.
time. He's a popular guy. Okay, so you're replacing Damian Lillard with Trae Young, and I ain't gonna lie, bro. You might be right
Yeah.
because when I'm looking at his statistics, he's averaging about 25 points a game. He's shooting an even less field goal percentage than Trae Young. And he's shooting. It looks like he's shooting worse from three as well. Up to this season, right now, he's shooting about 35% from three. So he's definitely having a much, not a much, but he's having a worse shooting season than Trae Young. So you don't believe that the standings in terms of having the Bucks as the second seed in the East doesn't boost him over Trey?
It well, yeah. I mean, it does boost him over it, but I don't think he should have been.
So it doesn't. So to you, it doesn't boost him over then.
I'll put it like this: I can see why to some
Okay.
it would boost him, but for
Okay.
me, yeah, it doesn't boost
I
him for
think that's
me.
tough. I think that's tough. And I think that's a tough one, bro. That's a tough one.
Can I say
I,
something real quick, bro? I
what's
would do
up,
this
bro?
if I had the lists my way. I would have took Dame off. He's not an all star for me this year. I'm putting Jalen Brunson at the starting point guard or starting whatever,
Oh, of
two,
course.
and then Trey Young's getting that reserve spot. So it's Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson as my starting guards. My alternative kind of argument here would be also, if I kept Dame on the All Star team, I gotta take Jalen Brown off and add Trey Young. Just to me, I understand why Jalen Brown is on the team. I can see why they put him on. They're in number one in the East. Boom, it's almost a given. You're gonna have two players from the best record in either conference. But I mean, he's not really moving the needle for me either this year, Jalen Brown. Um,
I can't rock with you on that, bro. I can't rock with you. I can't rock with you on that. And I'm gonna tell you why I can't rock with you on that, bro. Because first, like you said, number one, I think the Celtics absolutely deserve two All Stars, at least at minimum two All Stars. They are 4 games at this current juncture. They are 4 games ahead of the second seed in the East, the Bucks. So they're currently right now they are 37-12. The Bucks are 33-16. They're 4 whole games above the next seed, right? As the number one seed. So to me, off the top, Celtics have to have two All Stars, and I think that is no question that Jalen Brown has been the second best player for the Celtics this year. So
really,
yeah, it's no question. It's no question. Hoop fans have a tendency to, when a guy is special in limited minutes, we have a tendency to want to reward him, right? So earlier this season, we had a lot of hoop fans gesturing for Derek White to become an all-star. And he's a great player and he's a great role player, one of the best role players in the NBA. But come on now. Come on
right,
now.
right. No, I definitely
You
agree.
know what I mean? Like, come on now. Like, let's be serious. He's not over. He's not over Jalen Brown right now. Okay, Jalen Brown right now, averaging 22 a game, shooting 49% from the field. You have to reward him. And if they have to have at least two All Stars, you got to reward Jalen Brown. So that's why I can't rock with that.
I'm gonna say something that's probably I don't think it's a hot take. I think a lot of people probably agree with this, but I think the NBA needs to adjust these rosters to 15 men, bro. I really do because that then we're gonna see obviously less snubs. Each roster gets three more guys. To me, it makes sense. Why don't we do it? It's we would be now reflecting an actual NBA squad's number. What do you think?
I mean, I think that's it's easily that has to happen. I mean, like you said, it's 15 roster spots in the NBA. There should be 15 All-Star spots. I think popular guys like JJ Redick and others have made this statement. Like it's a
Sure.
pretty obvious statement to make. But I'll ask you this, and I think we touched on this in a earlier episode of our podcast
Mhm.
episodes in the show notes. does the NBA keep it this way? Because this should have been happened. But does the
Right.
NBA keep it this way to generate this type of discussion in the middle of the season, right? Between fans and media members alike. Do they
Right.
keep it at 12, knowing that three guys from each conference is going to be snubbed, and that's going to generate a couple weeks of discussion and
Yeah.
headlines? What do you think?
I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a wonderfully precise just point you're making because um I think that these guys that are getting snubbed obviously have a new chip on their shoulder, going forward in the second half of the season. Um, yeah, they're trying to make it. They're trying to prove a point. Obviously, I got snubbed. I should have been there. You guys are you're gonna pay for it, and that's what you know. I think the NBA catches wind of that. They understand the business and how it's going to play in for fans and how it's going to attract viewership and all. Yeah, so I think you might be onto something with that. I definitely think it's a hidden um,
Agenda. I think
agenda.
it could be
There
a
you
hidden
go.
agenda,
Yeah,
right? So I like that. I like Trey Young replacing Dame in the East. So you know what? Since you did the Eastern Conference, I'll take the Western Conference for my pick.
I bet.
And I was going back and forth with mine, and you know me, I'm a Pelicans bull. I'm a Laker fan. I'm a Laker fan right now. Obviously, I've always been for a long time. But I'm a big Pelicans guy, so I wanted to lean towards Zion or even Bi, but
Mhm.
because they both did not make it, and they're a current seventh seed in the West. But I think the clear choice is the fact that the Sacramento Kings are the fifth seed in the West at this current juncture with a record of 29-19. And both Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox did not make the All-Star game, not as a starter and not as a reserve. And to
Crazy.
me, for you to be a fifth seed in any conference and not have one All-Star member to represent your organization, it's so obvious that one of them or both of them were snubbed. And for my selection, I'm going with De'Aaron Fox. I'm going with De'Aaron Fox, bro, because when I'm looking at his stats, right, and this is the thing, we just spoke about Trey Young's efficiency as a guard, right? Great counting stats. I always look at his efficiency. Not very impressed ever. De'Aaron Fox averaging 27.5 points a game, 5.4 assists, 1.8 steals, shooting 47% from the field, so a higher field goal percentage for a guard, 38% from three, which is very notable because when he came into the league, he was likened to the past guards who had come in the league like John Wall, maybe even a Derrick Rose. You know what I'm talking about? That athletic, quick archetype of a guard
Mhm.
can't shoot. He's shooting 38% from three on a high attempts, on high volume. So he can shoot. So when you're looking at De'Aaron Fox and you're thinking of his game, how do you guard him? Because he's still arguably the fastest guy in the league with the ball in his hands. A swiper. He can shoot 38% from three, so you can't leave him open. You got to close out. I love his game, bro. And I think he is a dog and a leader and someone who is a gamer because that last season playoff series against the Warriors, he showed up. Had it not been for I think his injury to one of his fingers or his hand, I think they might have beat the Warriors in seven. So I say all this to say, bro, he got snubbed. He
Mhm.
got snubbed. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's arguably maybe the most underrated star we have in the league. The numbers you just mentioned currently averaging are, I mean, in any other season or any other season past, bro, he's an all-star. He's top seven, maybe MVP candidates. But this year, bro, it seems like it's a popularity contest mixed with um just snubs across the board for whatever reason. But I want to ask you this question, Kyle. I want to ask you, how would you feel if you were a snub but only got in the All-Star game as an injury replacement?
Well, if you're asking me, um, I would just be happy to be in the All-Star game because I'm in the NBA. But if you want me to assume how other guys might be feeling, like actual NBA players and guys in this position, I don't. I think it depends because I think we saw that happen one year with Mike Conley, right? Where he spent his whole career just being on the cusp, one of those guys on the cusp of making an all-star team. And
Mhm.
maybe some years deserving it, but not a very popular player. But just a very heady point guard. It's Mike Conley.
Sure.
And as a fan, the year he made it as an injury replacement, I was so happy to see it because I was like, a player of Mike Conley's caliber with the career he's had
Mhm.
deserves to make the All-Star team. And
For
I
sure.
think for somebody like him, I think he welcomed that and embraced that selection, that injury replacement selection. James Harden. It was reports last season that I want to say he wasn't selected initially as a reserve. And I think he then got selected as an injury replacement. And he rejected it or he took so long to reply to the invitation that they went with someone else.
Yeah, I
So what do you I think it just depends on the player and where they're at in their career.
mean, if they're a aging superstar like James Harden is and was last year, when he started to be, I think there's some pride issues there, right? Like it's hard to swallow your pride and see the reality that you're not there anymore, right? So for a guy like him, I understand it. For a guy like Trey Young, I think he would take it, but I think he would obviously be pissed off about it because is he in a place in his career where he's an aging superstar? No. Is he a superstar? I wouldn't say he's a super. I think he's a borderline superstar. Um, but it's just a weird situation.
But I mean, I think you hit it on the nail. I think it may be levels of disrespect. I think it's most disrespectful, in my opinion, when you're a superstar in your prime, like someone like Trey Young.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like I would assume that a player of his stature would be like, I deserve to make the All Star game. I'm in my prime right now. I'm having an All Star season. I should be selected. Then I think the next tier is James Harden, who, even though I still think he's All Star caliber, and he definitely was an All Star last year, he should have been. Um, Aging superstar, maybe on the cusp of not being at that level, so hard for them to accept that they're not at that level, like you said. And then I think it's the other tier, the Mike Conleys of the world, who always got snubbed for the majority of his career, and finally got
Like,
what he deserved. Got what he deserved. I think I wish that would have happened for a guy like Amonte Ellis, right? I
bro,
like
yeah, shout out to
wish.
Monte Ellis, bro. If you
Shout
hear
out
this,
Monte Ellis,
you hear
man.
this, bro, shout
I
out to you. Should have been an
shout
all-star.
out to Monte, bro, because I wish he would have got the Mike Conley treatment, right? Right. And
Me
I
too.
think sometimes your character or your reputation precedes you. So Mike Conley has always been mentioned as a stand-up guy, a great leader, great locker room guy. So he got rewarded for that at the end of his career, at later part of his career. Monte Ellis, maybe not so much. So he never got rewarded. And he definitely deserved to be an all-star in his career at one point.
That's a great topic. We need to talk about that at some point.
We gotta talk about it. But to finish up this snub topic, bro, I gotta ask myself the question.
All
If
right.
De'Aaron Fox got snubbed, who do I replace? And I think this is gonna hurt because of that cap that I have on, bro. I- well, no, it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt. The Warriors are a 12th seed in the West, bro. It's not gonna work. I'm changing my answer. The Warriors are the 12th seed at this current juncture. Steph Curry, Steph Curry should not be an all-star, bro. He should
Wow,
not be an all-star.
bro, that's controversial to say the least.
I don't even know if I want to clip that, bro.
Yeah, that's gonna be it's good because this is gonna raise. Hopefully, a lot of people comment on this and can speak, in the comment section about this. But wow, because they're a 12 seed, I get it. I understand it. I get it.
I want to stand on business, and it's gonna be hard for me to stand on business with this one. Let me ask you this: everyone who's been selected deserves to be an all-star. I think we can say that everyone who's been selected deserves to be an all-star. So let me clarify that. Does he deserve it more than De'Aaron Fox to you, bro?
At this very moment, he does not.
No.
Very moment, he does not. He just had 60 last night. This is February 4th, Sunday, February 4th. He just had 60 last night on Atlanta Hawks, February 3rd, 2023. Bro, terrific player. Obviously, we know this. This is not, but I think, bro, the standings is 12 significantly different from 15 in
What do
the
you
West.
mean?
In the
Uh
West,
oh,
I
so
don't
I
think
mean,
so.
this season, the Warriors are 11 games. They've won 11 more games than the Spurs. That's the difference between the 12th and the 15th seed.
It's like right here. You know what I mean? It's just like they might as well be the 15th seed. Um,
I'll say
but
this too, bro. Not to cut you off, but if it's not going to be Steph,
uh-huh,
it's got to either be D Book
uh-huh.
or LeBron James because the Suns and the Lakers can't get two.
No, yeah, that's as you can tell, that's like popularity right there, right? Like, I feel like
Exactly.
LeBron, for as long as he's gonna be in the NBA, he's gonna be an All-Star. But I think Devin Booker, bro, only made it to the All-Star game because of his last 5 or 6 games. He's been putting up some really good numbers, like
He's
really
been
like,
hooping.
like excellent numbers, like
He's been
phenomenal.
hooping. He's been hooping.
Um,
He's been hooping.
yeah, but he missed a lot of games, so um I was kind of shocked that he got in there. I thought he was going to be one of them guys that played like 45, 50 games this year, but he averages like 29, 30. So it's like small sample size what he did this year. Um, but yeah, so I completely catch your drift on this one. For
And
sure.
all of these guys are actually deserving of an all-star spot. We're a Hoop Fans podcast. We're gonna keep it real and be real Hoop fans. All of them deserve to be all-stars, but some more than others, and that's okay. I think it's gonna lead us right into our next topic in terms of snubs because Joel Embiid, is actually breaking news, breaking news, breaking news.
What happened?
At the time of this recording, ESPN is reporting Joel Embiid will undergo a procedure to repair a left meniscus injury this week. A recovery timeline is expected after procedure, but the expectation is that he will miss an extended period of time. So, Embiid, basically, long story short, he has to go through surgery or get a procedure to repair his meniscus. So, I say this to say it brings us to this next topic in terms of the 65 game rule that the NBA has implemented in order for players to receive awards, to be selected to the All NBA teams, to receive an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, to receive any of those rewards, um, players have to play a minimum of 65 games. And this rule has started this season. And Joel Embiid is the perfect person to bring up with this because he's having such an amazing season. But if he's not already ineligible to receive the award, he's not yet. He will be because he's going to miss more than a few weeks with this recovery. How do you feel, bro, about this new 65 game threshold and how it affects guys like Embiid, who's having a legitimate, if not the best case for the MVP this season?
Yeah, I've spent, since they initially released the plans for implementing this new rule, I've went back and forth, had a couple conversations with different folks, and one of the ones that stands out about this, I had a conversation with my coworker Joe. Shout out to Joe, that's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
He brought up a great point, and he said load management has changed basically the landscape of how we view players playing versus players sitting out, vice versa, and how we look at that as a whole. So, I think load management has kind of shaped players into not being able to go a full season and not really getting close to a full season, depending on who they are. So, a guy like Joel Embiid, who has a history of being injury prone, missing games, not being healthy for the regular season, I think this new rule affects guys like him, possibly Kawhi Leonard, guys like Zach LaVine. I mean, who else? Who else has some significant? John Morant, who's been kind of back and forth here.
Zion, I mean,
Zion, bro.
in
Yeah.
terms of being an MVP caliber person, yeah.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony
Um,
Davis, LeBron,
right.
LeBron.
There's a lot, bro. We could go on, right? But moral of the story is for me, um, I think the rule forces guys, you know, almost under law of the NBA, right? That you got to get out there and perform regardless of how you feel right now if you want to get rewarded with postseason accolades and awards. So I I think 65 out of 82 games is it's not asking like too much, but it's like
It's borderline.
borderline.
And I think that's why they chose that number.
Yeah,
I would assume, right? Because it's not an obscenely high number of games
right.
to play in. And I believe the rule is you have to play at least 20 minutes in each game. We'll fact check this, but I believe the rule is you have to play 20 minutes of the game that you step in. So it's not like Joel Embiid can start the tip off and then come out the game. He has to play for an extended
Right.
period of time during that game. Um, which makes that a side note that makes it interesting as well because even if you wanted to be like, okay, Embiid, just play 20 minutes just so we can get you in and out, that hurts your numbers, your counting
Right, bro.
stats. So
Yeah,
your stats are gonna get hurt from that, unless you just ball out in 20 minutes, like
it's like a
more than
lose-lose. It's like a lose-lose
it's
in
a lose lose. You
yeah.
basically you just have to be healthy. You
That's
have to
it,
be
bro.
healthy. You have to be healthy, and I think I see a lot of hoop fans where I read a lot of their tweets and they're like, oh, they're crying because the NBA is saying you actually have to play in games to win an award, right? Like a lot of hoop fans, they simplify it like in that. And I understand it. I understand it. I think for me, I'm 50-50 with the rule. I have liked the rule this season
Mhm.
because I do feel like guys who normally wouldn't play, I do believe they are playing. Like they're playing more games. And I hated the load management criticism against Kawhi Leonard, right? Because I felt like he dealt with some legitimate injuries, right? With his ACL, he had a meniscus tear as well, quad tendinopathy. So he had some very destructive injuries to his lower limbs.
Sure.
So I never liked the load management criticism on him. I'm like, he's actually recovering,
Right,
right?
bro.
But I do think because of this rule, someone like him is, they're making a concerted effort to have him play every game. And Kawhi Leonard has played for most of this season, right?
And
And
it's
as a fan of the game, I'm happy to watch guys play. I'm happy to watch national television games and not have to feel like the stars are not going to be present, right? On the flip side, for me, I hope that the NBA stars, and I think this has happened with Embiid, I hope that they are not feeling pressure to have to perform because of this rule, right? I think Embiid may have hurt his meniscus or tore his meniscus because of the pressure to play in games and because of this rule. And I hope it doesn't force other stars to feel pressure to play.
let me ask you this question, bro, because um it kind of brings us to this point. Why do you think guys now are getting injured so frequently, so often? Um, like, and it's the stars too. It's guys that were, that are kind of carriers of this league per se. Exciting players to watch, all-star superstars. I'm going to go ahead and say, why do you think it's happening so frequently? Why do you think that? Um, I mean, is there an answer to that question, or do you think it's literally just it's just random, coincidental, and it's just kind of it's their bodies, their
I
individual bodies?
I it's a lot of layers to that to the answer, I think. And I don't have the answer, right? But I do think that all right, so you have to first we have to assume that it's worse,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right.
So what I mean by that is it worse? Are superstars and NBA players actually missing more games than they did in the past?
Mhm.
Or do we have a heightened level of access and attention to the daily rumblings of an NBA team because of social media,
Mhm.
right? So if we have social media and we're able to see every day as a hoop fan that this guy missed tonight's game, this guy missed this game 2 days ago, this guy missed 3 games last week. Do we have more access to know that guys are hurt with social media and instant information compared to 20 years ago where you probably had to read the paper before you knew a guy didn't play,
Mhm.
right? So that's one. Is our guys actually getting more hurt? And if we are to assume that they are, and they may be, is it the NBA's fault for having league and team personnel for years claiming that load management was a way to prevent injuries?
Mhm.
And then this season, out of nowhere, a report comes out and says that is not true. That has not been substantiated by any facts or studies. Load management does not actually help people prevent injury. So is it the NBA's fault for possibly promoting um a regiment of play that doesn't help people prevent injuries? Right? And my last thing I say before you go, bro, is if we are to assume that people are missing more games, I
Mhm.
do think that it's clear why. The game is different right now. The modern game of basketball in the NBA is different. We play ball. Today, guys are shooting from farther and farther out, right? That means
Right.
defenders and NBA players have to move and run more miles on an NBA basketball court to close out to shooters,
Uh-huh.
to run with these athletes. It's just more taxing on your body. The game is more taxing today. Maybe not from a physicality standpoint, but just from an athletic standpoint, jumping, running, etc. And I
Right.
think that may be the reason why guys are more hurt.
Yeah, no, that's a hell of a breakdown, first off, Kyle. I can tell you spent some time thinking about that before and probably like looking some stuff up. What's crazy to me is you would think that back then they would get even more injured just because of the spacing. The game was played. To me, I'm just thinking like in the moment, like back in the '80s, the game was played in the paint, and guys are obviously driving way more physical. Game is spaced out now. Look, you're making a face like I don't know about that, but hear me out. While the game has gotten way more athletic and the athletes are kind of quicker and more advanced and there's more skill, it appears. I just think that it's strange to me that I'm saying that I feel like guys are getting hurt when in reality when I think about it, it's like they probably were getting injured at the same rate as they were back then. They just played through it, you know.
Yeah. Yo, bro, that might be the best. That you're right. They played through it.
Just played through it, bro.
They
Like,
played through it. And I think that's to my second point, bro. Has the NBA is that sort of the NBA's fault with the load management because maybe back in the day guys played through it so it
yeah,
doesn't seem like they missed as many games versus the last few years team personnel in the NBA has been saying load management is good for guys. So if you're dealing with something, it's best for you to not play. And that comes across to the average hoop fan that guys are just missing all these games when
right.
it's really their team saying, "Hey, sit down, bro. Sit down."
Yeah, bro. It's like this 65 game rule is like something out of that era. But it's like with modern medicine and modern, team physicians, it's like they're saying one thing and the NBA is implementing this rule that's saying another. It's like this not archaic rule, but like this older mentality, I will say, like this older mentality of play through it or you don't get rewarded. Which it's like pick a side, pick a
Pick a
side.
side. They switched up. The NBA switched up. They
Yeah,
switched up. They switched up, and they did so because guys needed to play in more games because guys were missing a lot of national television games, and they need to make that money and keep the ratings so they can get their television contracts. Which I understand. It's all a business, and it's all a business. And to answer your point about the '80s in terms of guys playing in more limited space on the basketball court, I do think that's a legitimate point, right? In terms of the physicality, right? It might be more bumping, yada yada yada. But sometimes, and this is not to hate on the old school hoopers, but when you watch those hardwood classics, a lot of times you might see some guys back in the '80s, late '80s, early '80s. They're not even in a defensive stance.
no,
Like they're standing up. Like they're literally standing up. Michael Jordan is making a rip through to the move. It's one dribble, he's dunking on somebody, and
yeah,
it's Danny Ainge, Larry Bird, et cetera, et cetera. They're standing up, bro. Like today, we have more stuff like where we actually have to bend our knees and get in a
uh-huh.
defensive stance. We actually have to close out, and this is just talking regular basketball. We actually have to close out 25 feet, right? We have to actually like jump when someone like goes to go for a layup. When you watch a lot of those games, bro, they
I'll
just
say
be
it.
looking at people.
Yeah, bro. Agility has come a long
Exactly.
way.
That's all I'm saying. That's
Yeah, bro.
that's all I'm saying, bro. But I think that's a legitimate point. I think like to cap this topic, um, it's just another season with Embiid, bro. This is kind of a typical season for Embiid, which is unfortunate. Honestly, no hoop fan should like this in terms of him being such an important player for the NBA, such a great player in the NBA, and he really just can't stay healthy. And it makes sense.
I
He's
will say this though, bro.
what
Like, I don't want to hear, and I'll just end it with this. Obviously, Embiid's not going to be in the MVP hunt, right? It's going to be somebody else. So whoever that person is that gets, awarded the MVP,
Joker.
I don't want to hear. It could be Joker, it could be Luka, Shea, a couple other guys maybe in the hunt. Your man Kawhi is slowly approaching that, top five area. I don't want to hear that that was Joel Embiid's award and that it's the MVP of the league is really a Joel Embiid because like yeah he's having a hell of a season, a historic run, boom boom boom, but like stuff happened, bro. Reality happened, and he got hurt. It's just unfortunate, and it speaks to what I said earlier about he's having that small sample size of a historic season, and it's just you got to charge it to just it's an unfortunate
It's unfortunate.
circumstance.
It's an unfortunate circumstance, and it is what it is. I think you capped that pretty well, bro. It's unfortunate. I guess so. Moving on, you brought up Luka, which is a good segue into this next topic. Um, Hey man, Luka Doncic. I like that you brought him up because I don't know how high he would be in the MVP race at this current juncture, just because of the Mavs record. But 73-point game from Luka. Um, we've had a 70-point game from Embiid, who we just spoke about, and we've also had a few 60-pointers as well. I mean, Steph Curry just had a 60-point game against the Hawks. So I ask you this, bro. With that being said, will someone get to Kobe's 81-point game this season? Do you think they will tie it or eclipse it this season?
I think that I definitely don't think they're gonna eclipse it.
Mm.
That would be. I mean, we're getting close. I mean, it feels like the last couple years we're getting scary close to doing what people said couldn't be done.
Couldn't be done.
Um, I think that if it's gonna happen, it's gonna be a guy like Luka, maybe Steph. Um, who else? Uh,
Donovan Mitchell,
Donovan Mitchell.
Dame had 70 last season. Donovan Mitchell had 70 last season.
Devin Booker has definitely the capability of doing it. Um, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and it's probably not even going on a limb. I'm gonna say it does not get eclipsed. Um, Someone might get close. Someone might get in the 70s again. But I'm gonna say no. No one gets 81 plus.
And is that because you just think 81 is such a high number that is that just hard? Because my thing is this, I say it. I won't guarantee that it will be eclipsed, but I think we're at the stage now where it's a very high probability that it will. Because you think about it, Luka's 73-point game, he had 65 after three quarters. He could
Right,
have got
right,
82.
right. And I watched that whole game, and I mean, bro, he was on pace. He was on pace. I thought he was gonna get it, like 81 plus. I really did. But he slowed down. Um, my man Tim Hardaway probably should have put the rock up a little bit more. We had this conversation, bro. He was, yeah.
They said, I saw someone on Twitter. They was like, "Who is the worst person to be on your team when you're trying to eclipse an 81-point record?" And Tim Hardaway was obviously in the quotes in the comments. Michael Porter Jr. was in that joint as well. um, I'll say this from what me watching the game. I mean, I think Luka was pretty impressive. He had a high total of points, but he still made the right plays, especially down the stretch. Some of that was because I think he was tired and that the Hawks were throwing everything at him so that he wouldn't clip his record on them.
Yeah, bro.
And it's like, why didn't you have that same energy for the 65 prior points? But that's another thing to be said. He made the right decision in terms of when they trapped him and blitzed him, he gave it up, made the right passes, yada yada yada. So I got a lot of respect for that in terms of he could have really hunted to go get that 82. He could have, and it was on the anniversary of Kobe's uh death or very close, excuse
Yeah.
me, and date. So I respect him for that. I think that it's a very, very high probability that that record gets eclipsed within the next few seasons. I'm almost that close to saying it's a guarantee because the way the NBA is working right now and the way all offenses are working right now, all we need is a guy to get hot like that again, and for a game to go to maybe overtime, double overtime,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I mean. And it will be broken, and I think it's very probable that those two things can happen.
for sure. Yeah, bro. I mean, I think we gotta. Every time I hear or watch Kobe's 81-point game, it becomes even more impressive to me because of how he started that game.
Yes.
He didn't start on fire, which is crazy to me because it basically he took you know most of the second quarter to the rest of the game, to get 81. He didn't start hot in the first quarter that I remember. That I remember.
I think I want to say he scored about 26 to 28 points in the first half. And
Okay.
then he had a 50 something explosion in the second half.
Yeah, bro.
So
So
imagine had he started hot. And Kobe, the
that's what
one thing, the one thing kids won't know who didn't see Kobe is like like he really was a different breed. Like he really truly was a different breed. Like had he started hot and got 50 in the first half, he would
Yeah.
have went and got another 50 in that second half.
And that's what exactly because I wanted to say like it's not how he started, it's how he
That's
finished.
how he finished. Yeah,
Was so impressive to me. So in order for somebody, that's how great Kobe was, bro. So today somebody would have to be on the whole game to eclipse that 81 because I don't feel like anybody in the league currently is as obviously no one's as polished as Kobe was at that point or as skilled to me, especially in the offensive end. I mean, we got guys that are close, um, but that's how good he was. Is that he was so great that he scored 81 based off of more points coming in the second half. And you know, I think they got, like I said, there are guys that are close, but
it's gonna be tough. I think two things you need. You got to be the dog. You
uh-huh,
got to be a dog. Got to be a killer because you got to have the like someone like Kevin Durant. He has all the skill in the world and the conditioning
mhm,
necessary to eclipse such a record, but he doesn't have that FU mentality. Like I'm actually going to score every single time down. Now he's a great scorer. He gets the easiest 30 in the world ever, easiest 30 in the world, but he ain't got that dog. Like, and you contrast that with guys like James Harden and Luka, who have James Harden back in his prime, and Luka today have that dog. They just ain't got the conditioning.
right. That's a
They
valid
ain't.
point, bro.
Luka was gassed. Like you know
Working
what I
yeah,
mean? He was gassed. Like they don't have the conditioning. So it's like Kobe had the conditioning and the FU mentality. Like, I'm gonna go get 81 because I'm
for
gonna go
sure.
actually shoot this ball every possession, and I'm in good enough shape to do it. Um, so he was a rare breed, man. One coach who played against Kobe in some high stakes situations, final series is Doc Rivers. And recently, which is it was crazy, Doc Rivers was named the Milwaukee Bucks head coach, obviously, taking over for the fired Adrian Griffin. But in a sidebar, has been named the All-Star, the Eastern Conference All-Star head coach for a team he's only played, or excuse me, he's only coached for a couple games now. So I just say that to say Adrian Griffin has basically led this team to a second seed in the East, and Doc Rivers gets the prize of being the All Star head coach. You listen. This is an interesting question. Is Doc? I'm gonna ask you. Is Doc a good coach? Is Doc as good of a coach as people say he is? Is he overrated? Talk to me, Matt. Like, what do you think of Doc Rivers and him
Oh, I'm
right
gonna be
now?
honest, bro. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I don't think Doc Rivers is as good as a coach as he appears to be.
Okay.
I don't even think his resume really speaks, otherwise. I don't think that his resume shows that he's a really great coach. I mean, bro, he's been like riding that '08 championship his whole, since '08. Hasn't done anything since '08, bro. He's been, second round exits with all the teams he's been on, all the teams he's coached. So like, and he's had some squads, bro. Like some squads. We go with the Clippers, those Clippers teams. Obviously, the West was pretty stacked, but they had the ability, they had the roster, um, especially that bench. Their bench was solid, and obviously their starting lineup was great. And then fast forward to the Sixers, I thought the Sixers were good enough to make it past the second round. Obviously, some players I won't mention had something to do with that, but you know, like schematically, I don't even know if that's the word, but I'm gonna use it. Um, I don't think I just think he has good teams, bro. I think that they are knowledgeable and obviously good enough players to go out and do their thing and Doc kind of just claims it was his coaching. And Doc has had a lot of great assistant coaches as
Oh,
well.
yes, he sure has. I mean, Sam Cassell.
Right.
Sam Cassell, is a great assistant coach. I like his personality from what I've seen in clips. I think you make valid points, bro. I think you make valid points. I think, well, to answer this question, I think he's an upgrade over Adrian Griffin, even despite Adrian Griffin leading the Bucks, coaching the Bucks to a second seed in the East.
Mhm.
He's an upgrade. They weren't feeling Adrian Griffin, obviously, in terms of the Bucks players. So I think Doc is an upgrade. So I think you had to make that move. Now, it does appear because I do believe that Doc is the head coach responsible for blowing the most 3-1 leads in NBA history. It
Yep.
does seem and appear that Doc Rivers, when going against another tenured, experienced as coach, that he will be outcoached or he has a history of being outcoached
Right.
against other great coaches in the NBA, right? The Phil Jacksons, right? It's happened to him. Just different coaches have outcoached him. So when you're looking at it from a contender perspective with the Bucks, it's like, yes, it's an upgrade, but the team, you guys want to win it all. Is Doc the coach to get you over the hump? And I I would say no. As much as I seem to like Doc as a person and the opportunities he gives a lot of coaches, um, I don't think he's the coach to get you over the hump at
I don't
all.
know.
At all. I think and like you said, we've seen it with the teams he's coached. I mean, when you like you named them, right? Extremely talented guys. And outside of the Celtics team that featured Kevin Garnett as a leader,
Uh-huh.
Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, he just hasn't gotten it done.
Yeah, bro.
So I still feel that okay, if the Bucks were a Eastern Conference Eastern Conference finalists and they get knocked out the Eastern Conference,
Mhm.
does he get them to the finals?
Currently, does Doc Rivers get into the finals?
Maybe. Maybe.
Not on
May-
his, not on his, not because of him.
Maybe because Joe Mazzulla may not be ready,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So maybe, but does he win the finals against a Michael Malone?
No.
Does he win the finals against a Ty Lue?
Bro, it looks like in big moments he just gets baffled. I don't know how many. I had this image of Doc Rivers in my head, bro, with him with his arms crossed, him smiling in disbelief, like where he's just like and just
What is
shaking his
going
head.
on?
Yeah, and just shaking his head, bro. I mean, bro, he has a history of having superstars in his hands, and like he had T Mac, bro, prime T Mac in Orlando
He
from
did. He
oh
did.
01 or yeah 01 to like 04 when he was in Orlando coaching. Oh, T Mac even before T Mac got there, he was in Orlando. But I say that to say, bro, he's had maybe the most superstars and done nothing with them other than one championship, and that was because of three Hall of Famers and a hell of a just constructed team across the board.
They were some dogs. That Celtics, that always Celtics team, goons, straight goons. Um,
This is not a shot at Doc. I like Doc. He's probably a good dude, but like, I don't know if I want him to, if I'm a GM and I'm picking a coach, I don't, if he's available, I don't know. I don't know if I'm picking Doc.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not a shot at Doc. I just don't think he's a good enough coach to win the championship. It's not a shot at Doc. See, that's a shot at Doc, bro. That is a shot at Doc.
It's not
Um,
personal, man. It's not personal,
it's
Doc. You
not
know what I
personal.
mean? It's only business.
It's only business. Yeah, well, they made a business decision, so we'll see how it works out, man. Um, I guess if we're, in that situation, we were thinking of ranking like a Doc Rivers, right? So let's
Mhm.
just move on. Russell Westbrook of the Los Angeles Clippers, he just eclipsed the 25K threshold for points scored. So I think that's an amazing accomplishment. Number one, talk to me, bro, because you seem to have a very, very, very strong opinion about where he ranks as an all-time point guard and
It's
some other things. So talk to me.
Yeah, bro. I think through and through, Russ is probably one of the most disrespected players in the recent past. I think a lot of times people forget, that he's a certified Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer. Arguably on some lists, goes from top 5 to top 10 point guards ever. I mean, I think he's the most athletic point guard to have a sustained career. There's no doubt to me about that. But he's one of the most disrespected players, and I don't really get it. I don't really get why he is. 25K, bro. I think he's gonna get 10,000 assists before his career is all said and done. He's got 8,000 rebounds. The only thing he's missing on his resume to be considered, in my opinion, a top 5 point guard ever is that ring.
The championship ring.
Oh, championship.
He definitely has all the other accolades. I mean, he's won MVP. He has a million All-Star appearances. He has the points. He has the assists. He has the
Uh-huh.
rebounds. The triple doubles. He leads. He's the number one in triple doubles in league history. So where does he rank for you then?
All-time point guards, right?
All time point guards. Where does he rank?
I think
Talk to
he's
me.
for me, he's hovering around 7 to 10. I got obviously the list when it comes to point guards. You got Magic, you got Isaiah Thomas, you got Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, John Stockton, Gary Payton. Um, I think if so, my top five point guards ever, right? In Magic, no particular order, just top five. Magic, Isaiah. I'm gonna go ahead and put Steve Nash there, J Kidd. Is that four?
That's four.
Four?
Steve Nash is your third greatest point guard of all time?
No, no particular order.
Okay.
Order.
But he's in your
Um,
top five. Okay.
yeah, he's definitely top five.
Really? Really?
I mean, maybe John Stockton, but I think that if he gets John Stockton don't have a ring, bro. So if Russell gets a ring, that automatically for me puts him ahead of guys like Stockton. Um,
I see the argument.
I think he's better than Gary Payton, definitely.
He's better
Um,
than Gary Payton. He's better than Gary Payton. I mean, it's not. Let me not say it like that. That's kind of disrespectful. It's close because Gary Payton was a dog as
bro,
well.
oh, Steph. Steph is the top five point guard ever.
Tripping, yeah, we're tripping out naming stuff. I
Yeah,
think, and I think it's somebody else you're missing. That's you're tripping as well.
I forgot about Steph.
I think you're
Um,
tripping as well, missing somebody. You're missing. Okay, so is Russ higher than CP?
yeah, all time for me. Yeah, that's controversial. So
Ooh,
let me know.
it's
Let me know. Let me know. I want people to really let me know about where he stands
if
because
you wanted to win a championship, you're drafting. You're drafting. They say, okay, here's your pick to get your point guard to lead you to a championship. Who are you selecting? Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul?
so wait a minute. You can't just do that to me, bro. I don't know anything like they're fresh out of college. Like Russell's coming from
I'm
UCLA.
talking about. Listen, you can answer however you want to. Russ at his greatest, CP at his greatest. You get to draft the point guard on your team to lead you to a championship. You don't know who else is on your roster. Who are you taking?
I want Russ, bro.
No,
I want
no,
Russ. I want
no.
Russ. You asked me what I want. I want Russ.
No. I'm saying I feel you. I'm saying me. I know I can't. I disagree. I gotta go. I gotta go. Chris Paul. I gotta go. Chris Paul. I think
It's a heck of an argument.
it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
They
I
both
think
good
Chris.
men.
I think Chris Paul is no question the top five point guard in the NBA all time. It's not even a question to me. It's not even a question. I think you got to put Magic Johnson. You got to put
Mhm.
Steph Curry. You got to put Isaiah Thomas. I think you have to put Chris Paul. And honestly, that fifth one, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I'm a big Jason Kidd fan, man.
Too. I wasn't when I was young, but I am. I am
I'm
now.
a I'm a big Jason Kidd fan. We got to remember, Jason Kidd led the Nets to back-to-back NBA Finals appearances. Like me, we've got to remember. And before he got to the Nets, they were in the dumpster. And the year he got there, he turned them around to like a 50 win team, and should have got. I think he got major consideration for MVP that
He
year.
did. Yeah, he did.
Jason Kidd,
Yeah.
Jason Kidd, I like him a lot. Now, is he better than Russ?
No. Well, depends what you're looking for. It depends what you're looking
Exactly.
for.
It depends what you're looking for. I think Russ is probably a better individual player, but in terms of leading a team, again, Jason Kidd led a team with Kenyon Martin and Richard Jefferson, and this is no disrespect to them because they were really good players, to the finals. Uh,
Crazy.
like you know what I mean. So
And what baffles me, bro, and not to cut you off, but like Jason Kidd, like he dominated the game. He didn't really even score a lot of points. I think he
no,
averaged that year, he probably averaged around like 18, 19 a game.
maybe I don't
Yeah,
even think he averaged that high. I think honestly, bro, if I'm not mistaken, he was more in the 12 to 15 range, maybe
yeah,
17 at the max. Like he didn't,
yeah,
and it was a different NBA too.
yeah, it was.
It was a different NBA, but
But
he
it just,
wasn't the scorer.
yeah, bro, in a league with dominant offensive talents, he's the one that made out the East, which is nuts to me those years.
I mean, it
Um,
was a different point guard. Steve Nash has a similar prime in terms
right.
of maybe
And
his
floor
stats not
generals,
being. What'd you say?
super great floor generals and facility, and their IQ is off the charts. Like,
IQ's off the charts. I think I think the one thing Russ does have in his bag is that he did go to the finals.
Mhm.
And he went with a young, like they were young. He was the second best player and a very young player as well. Like, and
Yeah,
they had Kevin Durant, but they were young.
yeah,
And I'll say this: it gets lost that going into that finals against the Heat, they were the favorites.
yeah.
They were the favorites. Like if people kind of retwisted history and said that they were the baby Thunder. No, they were the favorites. I remember
Me too, bro. Yeah,
entering that finals thinking they are going to smack the Heat. Um, I think Russ, as far as the 25K, so I say this to say this, where I have him ranked, he's definitely top 10. Um, I don't think he's guaranteed a top 5 point guard ever. Maybe that does change with that championship, like you said. But as of right now, currently as it stands, he has a great chance to win the championship with the Clippers. But as it stands currently, I don't think he's a guaranteed top 5. I wouldn't have him over CP. He's
mhm.
definitely top 10. And one thing I'll say is also is that the 25K threshold, I was kind of surprised to see he cracked that. And I do think recent NBA seasons have kind of clouded just how great of a scorer he has been in his career. Like he led the league in scoring.
Oh, led the league in like 31 and a half a game, which back then was like kind of what Joel's doing now. Back then is what that number stands out to be. Um, and like I said, bro, when I said you asked me where does he rank, and what I believe feels like a safe bet as well, and I think he hovers in that 7, 8, 9, 10 area. I
Okay.
think a championship at this late in his career would kind of be similar to how Gary Payton got his chip in Miami.
Like
As an
Jason Kidd,
older, like yeah, in Dallas, like an older, just savvy professional point guard that's obviously past their prime,
that's their prime.
but it's like one rank on their uniform basically.
I think that's why I root for the Clippers so much is I want him to get that ring. Like I want guys like a Russ. I want guys like James Harden. I want guys like Paul George to get that ring because I want to, as a hoop fan, I want to see guys like that who have had amazing Hall of Fame careers. I don't want them. It's not cool for those guys to turn out to be like to be clowned like Charles
Right.
Barkley, like Karl Malone, like John Stockton, like Steve Nash. It's not cool for those guys, Allen Iverson. It's not cool for those guys to turn out like that. You know, as a fan, I want them to be able to get the ring and say that they became champions because individually they are champions already. So, and I think that's a great place to leave it, bro. I think this has been a great, amazing podcast. As always, if you're listening on any podcast platform, the information will be in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, please stop, hit the like button, and subscribe to our channel. It's the Hoop Fan Podcast. I'm K Rose. It's my guy,
Matt Seip.
Matt Seip, and we out.